So workflows, how do they work? So in our system, the way that workflows work are that you have events and you have workflows. And then maybe you have many different types of workflows. When you have a workflow, you can associate events with that workflow. So you make that association, and what happens is every time that event happens, that workflow runs, that workflow takes some actions. So just say there's many different types of things that it can do and types of logic that it has, but it's doing stuff in the world, and it happens in response to these events. So next thing you might think, what are events? Events could be things that happen in Alga. So events could be a project is saved, a ticket is, the status on a ticket changes, an invoice is created, the billing period is done. Basically, all the different things that can happen that are interesting in Alga PSA will create events, and those events can be attached to workflows. Also, scheduled events. So every hour or every 5 hours, once a day, 12 p.m., Christmas Day, you can create an event that will fire at that time. And so you might want to do things that happen hourly or daily or on holidays. So you can attach a workflow to a schedule. And then we'll just say external events. And there's a couple big ones here. You may have email, so we can listen to an email server, and then we can trigger events that happen when an email arrives, or we'll say, try not to be too technical here, but we'll say callbacks. So you have some other system that has an event, like say you had your RMM system, detected a virus on a customer's PC. It can send a callback to us, and that callback can in turn run a workflow. So this is actually really, really flexible and allows us to do a lot of the stuff that you might want to talk about. So let's talk about some things. So email connector. So you have an event, an email arrives, and it calls a workflow. What might that workflow do? Well, it might look up the customer that email is associated with. And if you have some sort of SLA requirement for that customer, or if you want to handle them in a slightly different way than someone else, then you can put your logic in here to say, create a ticket, create it with a high priority, assign these people to it, etc. Whatever, the sky's the limit. And if it's anyone else, then create a standard ticket, and that's it. All right. How about this? Credit is created because there was an invoice and the invoice went negative. That can cause a workflow to fire. And you might want to generate a payment to give them a refund. Or more likely, you want an approval process. So the workflow can, and this is really cool, this is one aspect of our system that's going to make it very, very flexible. A workflow can create a custom form. And in this case, you would want an approval form. So you have the customer, you have the credit amount, and then you have, approve and deny buttons. These buttons that the user clicks feed back into the workflow, as an event. So if you deny the credit, well, maybe the workflow then emails the customer to tell them, we've denied this credit, or whatever your business processes are, you can build those here. Let's see. Trying to think of something else. Okay, so the one we just talked about was external integrations. So we did an RMM one. It can be pretty simple. Here's one that we're going to do, which is actually really cool for us. So the event is project update. So we actually use a project system here to do all of the work for Alga PSA. And we know that it's problematic to just share the raw project because, number one, Alga doesn't yet have the concept of sharing with external people, and maybe we will or maybe we won't do that. But a lot of what we do is in GitHub already, and GitHub has projects, and GitHub projects are pretty nice. They're very similar to the ones that we have, so the mapping would be really similar. So what we're going to do is we'll have an event that happens, which is a project update. It's going to come in and it's going to call a workflow. And the workflow will then go and update GitHub. So the GitHub project will be synchronized with the internal work that we're doing. And then if there's an external person, like one of our, someone from the community, maybe adds a comment to the GitHub task that's associated with the project task, it will come back in as an event against the workflow, and then we can go and we can update the project. So we can actually have something that's interesting to us, but it's not something that we'd ever build into the product because we can't build everything. So the workflow system gives us the ability to let our customers and the people who are using the system do all those things that make applications too complex. If you haven't thought it through in the beginning, then what many different organizations will do is they'll create a plugin system, or they'll create extensive APIs, and they're going to put a lot of a burden onto you to do all these things through just ways that aren't great, or they'll give you tons and tons and tons of options, so that you look at the screen and it does everything in the world. Whereas I kind of see this as kind of, this is a hierarchy. We want people to be able to get into this and get value out of the system right away. You don't want like a 6-month implementation period for people to get any kind of value from the system. So we have a base here, and the base is just, we'll say, I don't know, we'll call table stakes. So you have ticketing, projects, time and approvals, billing. And that's, any PSA, even a one person operation can get a lot of value out of that. And if we can keep it simple, then they'll be able to use it without a lot of handholding. But then you want to kind of move up the hierarchy of of the value that you're getting, and also as your company matures, you're going to want to have tools that can grow with you. And I see that that's where the automation comes into play. So there's an aspect of automation that's built into the system, and then there's an aspect of automation that that's just specific to certain types of industries or specific to certain companies, and that's where we see our workflow system coming in. People who have been following us for a long time, they understand that really what we're doing here is we're trying to build a platform that we can build on top of to do kind of some of the things that we dreamed about doing from the beginning of the company. So a lot of what we've been thinking about is how do you use intelligent systems to help people with ticketing and things like that. So here's something that will be coming soon. We'll have this offering, but you can also do it yourself. So imagine an email comes in. So that's the event. Comes to the workflow system. In the workflow system, what we do is we use an LLM to read the email, extract a summary, kind of guess a priority. Sky's the limit. As these things become more powerful, you'll come up with different things that you can do. Maybe sentiment analysis. Just imagine like the drop-down box that everyone else has in their system. They're like, oh, so you want to do a sentiment analysis, so you got to click the sentiment analysis. But if it's something different than what they've thought of, or if you want to do something that's custom, then you're kind of out of luck. But because we're building this on top of the workflow system, you can kind of do anything that you want, and then we'll have our own services that we offer, but you'll be able to use APIs to other services to do whatever you want. You can imagine in response to these things, what do? Well, you might set the priority. You might include a summary. You might look up similar tickets and then add those as notes on top of the ticket. So really, sky's the limit. That's really what I wanted to communicate here, is that when I am showing you the system in a second, you can see kind of why it's designed the way it is and what we're intending to allow you to do. So let me see. All right. So with that out of the way, let me come here. And I'm on the wrong window. So, okay. So I had to go to my local system because we don't have any test data in one of our live systems. But this is kind of intended to be where you can go and you can see templates for a lot of different types of automation that we'll make available, and it will be pre-configured, it'll be point and click, it'll be really easy. So you might want to do things like, I want an approval process. I want to generate invoices on a schedule. I want to escalate tickets based on SLAs. I want to create an email connector. We'll do everything here and make it super simple. And then if you want to, you can see these and you can see how they're configured. And you can then use this template and you can build on top of it. When you do that, it creates a new workflow. You can see this workflow is here. We can test it. You can version it, because with workflows, you may want to make updates to them, but workflows can be long running. Like I said, you might have a workflow that waits for someone to respond back, and it might be hours or days. So you don't want that workflow to be affected if you update it. You want, new executions of the workflow to be against the new version. So we've got versioning, you can disable them, etc. So if you click on one of them, you can come in here and there is the editor. There's no getting away from the fact that if you want to give full power to the users, that the editor process, creating a very custom workflow, is going to be something that is necessarily pretty complex. So we do what we can to make it easy. So we give you this nice environment here, and we try to give you, if I can type, we can try to give you autocomplete, and let me see if I can find something that I can show that will. See if this thing is gonna. No, it's not gonna. It's doing okay, but there's more to it than this. But we're not released yet. But anyway, it'll give you a lot of help as you're going through. And I know it's issues. Anyway, we're going to come up with a separate video for this that walks you through it, how to do all this. But my bigger point is that there's a certain amount of complexity that you get with this level of flexibility, but we're going to build tools on top of this. So if your base is really flexible, we can build on top of this graphical designers, templates, and even LLMs where you can type in what you want and it'll just generate the code for you. So This is the workflow designer. And then we're going to have a catalog of events. So all the events that can happen in the system will be here. And you can go and you can say, okay, well, I have this workflow that is supposed to create emails or whatever. So you can find the email arrived event and you can click on it and you can attach the workflow to the event. So then whenever that thing happens, the workflow is executed. So whenever an email comes in, it'll run the workflow, which will create the tickets, maybe do the customer lookups like we were talking about. And then finally, when these things happen, you want a log of it. You want to be able to come in here and monitor the status of a workflow. Like I said, they can run for a long time. So you want to see what's been done so far, and see if something is stuck or if it's waiting on a user to respond or something. So we give you this nice graphical representation of the workflow. You can click on the different things that have happened and you can get information about what's happened along the way. So there's a graphical thing. You can go here and you can view all the events that have happened in the workflow, see all the actions that have taken place in the workflow, raw logs, and then the context data, which is what was sent into the invoice. So for example, the email information, the raw email information might be here. So that's the workflow system. That was this month too. That was a big part of this month, but we think that's going to be super, super important to what we're doing.